So, hello everyone and welcome to the NIHR Policy Research Unit in Healthy Aging webinar series. I'm Chris Todd and from the NIHR Policy Research Unit, and I'm chairing today. Today's webinar is looking at promoting healthy aging, inclusive approaches to physical activity for older people. It's part of our series of webinars hosted by the Policy Research Unit in partnership with the Dunhill Medical Trust, the NIHR Applied Research Collaborations of Greater Manchester and North East and North Cumbria, and the NIHR Newcastle Biomedical Research Centre, and from us at the University of Manchester and Newcastle University. And the idea is to showcase some of the work being done by our joint PhD students. So today we have two talks. Unfortunately, one of the speakers who was programmed to speak today, Sally Hoodless, is unable to join us because of ill health. So we have two speakers who will be giving us presentations about their PhD work. So the first of them is Babusha Khani, who's going to be telling us about promoting healthy aging, inclusive approaches to physical activity for older South Asian adults. And then we'll go on to hear from Yang, who's going to be telling us about the barriers and facilitators to physical activity and participation amongst Chinese seniors in the UK. Each talk's going to be about 10 minutes or so. And during these presentations, there's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers after each of the two presentations. So throughout the webinar, we're going to put things into the chat and post links that might be useful for you. But we'd also like you to put your questions into the Q&A function, which is available on your screen. Now then, depending upon the setup on your machine, you should see across the top of your screen both a chat function and a Q&A function. So if you press the Q&A option, you'll be able to post questions, which will then be used as we progress further through the session. And if you like other people's questions, rather than repeating them, why not just put a thumbs up on the questions? We know from experience that some firewalls mean that there isn't a Q&A function available to people. If you can't see the Q&A function, just post it into the chat in the normal way, and we'll keep an eye on the chat to make sure that anything that's put in there can come forward to be a question later on. Right, we'll only have a chance for a few questions, so if you want to put the questions into the Q&A or to the chat, that's really useful to help us make sure that we've got questions in a timely manner. So I'm going to move on now without further ado to ask Babusha to tell us about promoting healthy aging and the inclusive approaches to physical activity with older South Asian adults. So over to you, Babusha.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you so much for being here and giving me the opportunity to present today. I'll be taking you on a journey on using inclusive approaches to promote physical activity for older South Asians in Greater Manchester. So why is this journey important? So in this journey, we're going to this island. This journey is important because healthcare costs are almost like 40% of healthcare costs are for caring older people. And as people age, the chance of needing care and support increases by 43%. And 1/3 of an older person, chances of falling is higher, and falls are one of the leading causes of disability adjusted life. So basically, less physical activity goes to less function and high risk of falls. Um, but there are some solutions, and digital health interventions seems to be one of those solutions to that has some positive impact in improving health outcomes for older people. But a systematic review, even though it showed 75% positive impact, there were no studies focused on ethnic minorities. And there was a scoping review which was done specifically for South Asian population, looking at just digital health for overall South Asian population, and that also had limited research on it. Um, Now there's also digital inequity in the UK. Like only 10% of adults, like they have not used internet in the last 3 months, and they're most likely to be people over 65 years old, and if they are from a minority background, then they are even more likely not to use internet or technology. Now, you might be wondering why focusing on South Asian population. South Asians are the largest minority group in the UK. They tend to have lower quality of life score and higher ill health. And they also have lower physical activity levels. And as I mentioned earlier, less physical activity goes back to less function and high risk of falls. So that's why it's important to also focus on South Asian population. Now, um, we talked about the importance of digital health intervention. One of the things that we are working on is Keep Up Koku, which I'll be talking about more. But before I move on to discussing more about Koku, I'd like to share this video with you, and I want to make sure the sound is shared.
Hey there! You said you needed support to get more exercise in order to build your balance and strength to prevent unwanted surprises. So we thought, okay, let's make something new to help. Based on evidence from 30 years of research, we set up a fun and interactive app that you can use 2 or 3 times a week. It's easy. You just need to enter your name and you're ready to go. With various challenges to undertake and help to achieve them, it's easy to fall in love with our app. We're currently building amazing new features and testing the benefits of using the app with older people to improve their quality of life and independence.
So we'll be talking about this app more. So in the journey, you need a compass and a map. So we talked about why South Asians, and this study focused in South Asians in Manchester. We'll talk about Keep Up Koku, co-production methods we used, which is patient public engagement, community engagement, pre and post feasibility study, and the lessons I've learned. So for Koku, as you saw in the video, it has strength and balance exercises, and it also has games on health literacy, such as food to eat to improve bone health, things to stay hydrated, and in addition to that, it also has the personalized exercises to help people stay physically active based on their health conditions. And these exercises are based on Otego and FAME exercises. And for the South Asian versions, we had to change the diet, as well as skin tones, and also make sure that the characters are relatable to the South Asian population. We changed the language from Koku app from English into Roman Urdu. As you can see in the screen below, it has English alphabets, but it is written in Urdu. So after making those modification, we also did PPIE, which is patient public engagement. And in this one, the PPIE, there's some stages of PPIE done before this PhD project began, which looked at cultural sensitivity and some feedback and implementation advice. But for this particular project, I'll be looking into advice on the content, how to recruit people, as well as advice on the topic guide. So the current version of Koku was already made before this PhD project began, and this PhD project focused on refining the app and getting more South Asian people involved. It also all the PPIE was focused on Pakistani populations, and for this PhD project, we had done two PPIE sessions, which had we had to separate the group, male and female groups, because of cultural aspects. And in these sessions, we learned that people preferred more audio and visuals rather than language translation. We learned that a lot of support is needed and one-on-one support is preferred, and being clear on who is your user. So, not just thinking about ethnicity, but also thinking about living situations and things like that. So, after getting clarity on that, we also did a lot of community engagement activity. And in community engagement activity, we had people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and Nepal try out Koku and give us feedback, and we've talked about importance of strength and balance exercises. We also had an opportunity to have deaf people give feedback on Koku, as in the PPIE, people had mentioned they want more audio. So we wanted to get their feedback as well. And after that, we did pre and post visibility study. We used a mixed method approach. And for the quantitative data, in addition to demographics, we looked at false assessments, fall risk assessment, quality of life. And people used Koku for 3 weeks. And after using for 3 weeks, we had interviews and focus groups based on participant preference on what their experience was like using Koku and what their experience was like being part of the study. We had 33 people. There was zero dropouts, and age was all from 65 and above, and one person was 85 and above. We had people from different ethnicity participate in this study, and education levels were also in different levels, but majority of them had GCSE or equivalent level, and majority of people, they had lived in the UK for almost 41 years and above, and majority were females. So lesson learned was a lot of people from the South Asian community, they are not familiar with research, so they think doing surveys are research. They were very conscious about being recorded, and so instead of having a lot of recording things around them, we had to use different methods to record by using small dictaphones instead of laptops and things like that. And I found out that informal conversations were more important to recruit. I got participants from restaurants or places where there were South Asian food places or temples, and it was word of mouth was more beneficial for recruitment. um, there's also cultural difference in communication styles within the community and from Western community versus South Asian community, because for South Asian community it is very common courtesy to initially refuse, but from the Western point of view, if you try to keep asking, it would look like coercion. But for cultural aspects, you initially refuse to be humble. So I was that difference became very clear for me. And ability to participate in research is actually highly influenced by caregivers, because they felt that if there was doing Koku exercises or if they had any questions, having a caregiver around gave them more confidence. And accessibility was key in terms of language wise too. Instead of written language, they preferred audio, they liked the animation. And even in the study design, instead of doing workshops, I ended up going to the participants' house to make it convenient and accessible for them. So those are the lessons I've learned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Babusha. So I can't see the Q&A chat, so I've no idea what questions have been put into the Q&A. Are there questions in chat?
Yes, there is one, Chris. I'll post it
Yes.
into the chat.
You could just read it out. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm interested to know whether these people were new to structured exercise or had they actually attended exercise in person previously.
So these people were like those people who I recruited via community organizations. They had some exercises organized from the community organization, but majority of them were new. A lot of South Asian community people, their version of exercise meant going on walks. So the idea of strength and balance exercise is very new to them. Majority of them think walking is a good exercise, and that's all you need as you age.
Okay, that's good. You used Roman Urdu rather than writing in an Indian script or in an Urdu script. Why was that?
In the sessions that were the PPIE sessions that were done before this PhD project, it was told that people preferred the text technology usually uses English alphabets. So it was told that it's easier to use technology with English alphabets and in their language. But it turned out that it is a generational thing. So if people are older, they would rather read things either in English or in their native language rather than in Roman language. And also because the Roman Urdu and spoken Urdu and spoken Hindi, they overlap a lot. So having it in Roman Urdu, when people read it, because it would sound, speaking wise, it would look the same. So that's why I was able to recruit Indian people as well as other diverse community people.
Okay. Somebody, Dawn Skelton has asked, how do you go about asking for a second time if they are refusing in the first place? How do you manage to do that?
So I had to, when I was recruiting, I had to tell people that because of university policy, if they refuse for the first time, I have to consider that as their final response. So I had to tell them, in a joking way that, like, don't be shy. If you want to participate, just let me know. Don't refuse right away. We don't need to be humble. This app is for you to try.
Okay, one final question here. I've answered one of the questions straight into the chat, but one final question. Was the Koku app accessed by individuals or in groups in the community when they were doing it?
The Koku app was accessed by individuals. So for this study, we had some iPads that we provided, which had Koku installed in them already for each participants. And then after they were done, we collected the iPads back.
Okay, so they weren't doing this in a community setting together, except for the PPIE type of community.
Yes.
Work. And if they wanted to use the app themselves, they took it home or they used a tablet at home. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And somebody asked about Koku being available on their phone. My understanding is Koku is only available on tablet, so you'll have to use an iPad or another tablet to download Koku. Yes. Thanks so much for a really interesting talk, Mibusha. I think there are other bits of information coming through, questions, and I know we will answer questions following this by putting stuff in the domain. So congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to now introduce our second speaker, who is Yang. If Yang would like to put her slides up and go into presenter mode. So Yang is going to tell us about her PhD work, which is looking at the barriers and facilitators to physical activity participation amongst Chinese seniors in the UK. And shall I say, Yang, why you've used the word seniors? You've used the word
Okay.
seniors. It's because the older people themselves prefer to be called seniors rather than Chinese older people. They want to be called Chinese seniors. So I thought I'd say that while you were getting this to work. So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, at the very beginning, when I just read up my PhD proposal, I using the word old adult because quite common be used. But when I asked the suggestion from the PPI group, they said the older Chinese people, they don't want themselves be called older people. They prefer the word senior. So it's why I using the word senior here. So can you see my slide? Okay, yeah. So I will talk about my study now. I'm very fast speaker, so if I talk too quick, please let me know. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm a PhD student from the University of Manchester, and my PhD aim to develop some culturally sensitive strategy to promote the physical activity for Chinese senior in the UK. And today I'm talking a study is part of my PhD. It's a qualitative descriptive study to explore the barrier and the facilitators to physical activity among this population. So let's have a look at the background. Chinese population is one of the largest ethnic minority group in the UK, but compared with the local population, they are more likely to be physically inactive. So as an ethnic minority group, they may have some unique needs when participating in physical activity, but there's also the general intervention may not be well accepted for them. The problem is no intervention has been developed specified for this population, and no study has been conducted to explore the unique factors that may influence their physical activity behavior. So it's come to my study. The research question for my study is, what are the physical activity behavior of Chinese seniors in the UK? And what are the barriers and facilitators for them to engage in physical activity? And the third question is, what can be the potential strategy to help them better engage in physical activity? So the finding of this study will provide evidence for me to develop intervention in my next step in a PhD. Yeah. This is a qualitative descriptive study. So I target at people 60 years and older. They self-identify as have Chinese ethnicity. So they have to settle in the UK as a resident. So I exclude these people who are short-term traveler. I using audio recorded semen structure interview to collect the data, and I using a semantic analysis method to analyze the data by using NVivo software. Totally, I conducted 16 interviews with 27 participants. Here I make it was noting as suggested by the PPI group, the Chinese senior they prefer to interview together with their partner, friends, or family, so they feel more comfortable or safer. So some of these interview was conducted in a one-to-one approach, but sometimes I conduct interview with one or two or three participants together. Majority of the participants are female, married, retired, and Cantonese speaking. More than half of the participants they self-report they engage in physical activity at least twice a week, and about a quarter less than 1 time a week. For the first research question, their physical activity behavior are grouped into 3 categories. So there are a few participants, they are really physically active and already meet the WHO guideline. So they engage in aerobic activities such as swimming, walking, as well as dancing, tai chi, this kind of strength and balance exercise. These people, they usually belong to an exercise group such as dancing group or tai chi group, and they meet regularly every week to do exercise together. And these people are less likely to report barriers. But most participants belong to the second group. They self-report they are active, but actually they do not meet the guideline. Usually, these people told me, I think I'm active. You know, I take a walk every day and I walk to the local shop. But when I ask further question, I know they walk very slowly because they think older people shouldn't walk very quick. So they But the guidelines suggest the activity should help you to feel warm or increase your heartbeat. So they actually do not meet this standard. In addition, they never perform stress and balance exercise. And there are also a few participants, they are totally physically inactive, especially these participants who at a very advanced age or with very poor health. I remember there is an old lady in her 90s. So she told me she stayed at home all the time unless her family visit her and they may go out for lunch and maybe she can have some walk. And there's a gentleman, he had a stroke 2 years ago. The physio gave her some booklet for her to do exercise, but he never do that, and he told me he spent most of the time watching TV. Yeah, so this is the third group of participants. The rest of the presentation will focus on the factor influence their physical activity behavior. So I did not using any theoretical framework to design the interview question. So when I started the interview, I asked a very general question. For example, what is your experience of attending physical activity? What are the barriers you are facing, and how can I help you to be better engaged in physical activity? But during the analysis, so I do the line by line coding, I found I can using the Cumbria model to explain these factors. The Cumbria framework is a behavioral change model developed by Susan Michi. It suggests that a behavior is driven by 3 key components: its capability, opportunity, and motivation, each with 2 subcomponents. So under capability, the first is physical capability. It means people need to have the physical strength to perform the behavior. In our study, it's relevant to the same one, physical health. So people cannot engage in physical activity because of lack of energy. For example, one participant said, "I'm just too old to exercise. I simply don't have the strength for it anymore." And other factors also including disability, pain, and chronic condition. Like I mentioned, the old gentleman, he has disability because of stroke. Another factor is psychological capability. It's referred to the knowledge, the cognitive skill, or mental process for the behavior. And in our study, it's relevant to same to knowledge and skills. If you want the people to meet the guideline, first they have to know what is the guideline. But the problem is many people don't know the guideline. For example, I don't know how much exercise older people need, so I just take a walk every day. I think it's enough. And other factors under this theme also including understanding the importance of physical activity and having the practical skills. For example, they need to know how to do stress and balance exercise. Under opportunity, the first is the physical opportunity, which is provided by the environment such as the location and resource. In our study, we also called it as the physical opportunity. The first factor is the physical activity environment. So the Chinese people, they all prefer to do group exercise such as dancing, tai chi, but the problem is they cannot find a good place. I think the main issue is no place for us. I mean, indoor space for us exercise, like dancing, so we can just take a walk in the park or by the river. They also report a lack of physical activity program for them. Another participant mentioned, unlike in China, there is no activity such as square dancing, and the exercise options are limited. So different with the local people, they don't want to go to gym, and they prefer some culturally sensitive program, physical activity program for them. But the problem is they are not allowed. Another factor is information resource. This is especially for this just come to UK. They don't know the existing physical activity program. So there's a lady suggest me, you don't have to correct a new program, just integrating the existing activity will be super helpful. And they also mentioned technology play a role in their physical activity behavior. Another is social opportunity. It's a result of social factors such as cultural norm and social codes. And in our study, we also called it as a social opportunity. as I mentioned, they prefer to exercise with a body or within a group. But the problem is this minority group and they all live in different area. And a very common problem, it's hard for them to find a company. For example, they said, for me, the big challenge is finding exercise buddies. There aren't many Chinese people around here. Yeah. Usually for people from ethnic minority group, language usually reported as a barrier, but surprising, these people, this Chinese senior, they don't see language as a big issue. For example, one participant mentioned, I don't see language as a big issue. I have many Chinese friends here, and we always play together. So I don't really need to speak English. Compare with language, this cultural difference is more important. So it's just more comfortable to exercise with people sharing the same culture. So even when they can speak very good English, they still prefer to exercise together with Chinese people. It's like the cultural factor. And another factor is if they have time for physical activity. Most people report they have more time after retired. However, a family obligation is a quite common issue among this population. For example, I have to take care of my grandchildren, and I only have time when they are at school. And similar to the general population, social support is another factor. Last factor is motivation. The first is a reflect motivation. It refers to the conscious decision-making, planning, and intention related to the behavior. In our study, we name it as a belief in the consequence of physical activity. So the most common motivation is the belief in the health benefit. However, some people may have different idea. For example, it's all about destiny. So I think lifespan is pretty much set, and exercise doesn't really make a difference. And moreover, people commonly worry about the potential danger, especially this with poor health and very old age. It's not that I don't want to exercise. I just too afraid. My husband fall in the backyard, end up in the hospital, and pass away not long after. So I really scared of falling. This is a lady I mentioned. She stay all the time at home. And family harmony is another factor. It's quite unique for this population. So in Chinese culture, the family value is more important than yourself. And they wanted to exercise because they don't want to be a burden on their family. One participant said they already very busy. I don't want to become a burden on them. They mean they are children. They already been very busy. This is why I exercise, so I can take care of myself. And they also exercise because they see it's a chance to meet people and reduce loneliness. This the last factor is automatic motivation. Is referred to the habit, the emotion, and all the impulses influencing behavior. In our study, we also called it automatic motivation. So if physical activity become a part of lifestyle habit, people more likely to automatically engage in it. So for example, overall, my life is pretty routine and exercise is just part of it. I don't have to think about it. I just do it every day. And reinforcement is referred to the positive experience when you engage in activity. For example, one lady, she has a shoulder pain, and she told me whenever she has the pain happens, she just go for a swim, and one go make her feel much better. And so whenever she feels didn't very well, she just want to do some exercise. It's because the positive experience make her automatically think about the physical activity. And another emotion is also very important factor. It's really fun when you exercise with a group. You just can't help but want to join again. And if physical activity is your habit and interesting, apparently you will want to join it automatically. So this is all the factors. And now we come to the conclusion. So Chinese senior in the UK, they have a different physical activity level and they face various barriers. This underscoring the need for tailored intervention. This factor influence their physical activity are related to the capability, opportunity, and motivation, match with the Cumbria framework. And this suggests the potential of using the behavioral change wheel to develop a strategy to promote their physical activity behavior in this for this population. This is all my presentation. Thank you for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang. Very interesting and well done. There's one question, I think, so far in the chat that I can see, and if Linda would put anything that's in the chat, in the Q&A into the chat, I can see it there. So Bex Townley has asked that it's interesting how physical activity and exercise are being used as words interchangeably in your presentation, and she wondered how significant that is in relation to capability, motivation, and opportunity. So how important is it that...
Okay, yes, thank you for the question.
Or is this something linguistic in translation from the Chinese languages? I think it's like a translation, but it's like also the funding or part of the interview. So when I start interview, I ask them how they think about physical activity, and lots of people think physical activity is exercise. They are equal, but actually they are not. So then I told them, like, when I'm talking about physical activity, it's including exercise, but also including like any activity you go for shopping and you do your work, and even like housework. So, but when during the interview, sometimes like they just using the different word, and when I do the translation, it makes some different. But actually, when I from my understand, it's like there's not very big influence on how I understand these factors influence their like this physical activity behavior. Okay, thank you. Oliver's asked, and he's made an interesting observation that your interview sample, and in fact Bruce's as well, are primarily women. And he was wondering what the implications might be for your findings, I suppose this could be for both of you, for the fact that most of the people who participated in this work are women. Yeah, I think the one reason is like there's really one participant mentioned, male and female, they prefer different exercise. Female prefer like this kind of group, they do tai chi, they do dancing together. But the gentleman always like do exercise by themselves at home or bicycling something. So when I just start recruitment, I go to the the Chinese community. You can see 90% is female, and there's only a few gentlemen here. But later I try to, because I want to make my example like a diversity. I let this woman like introduce their husband to join my study. But to be honest, the male, they don't want to be involved in this kind of research. For my next part of study, so I did a feasibility RCT. One reason, one factor to help me to like to randomize them is like the gender. It's like I feel it's different. They prefer different exercise, and they were influenced by different factor. Yeah, like. So you've partly answered the next part of the question was, do we need to focus on the men in the ethnic minority groups? Maybe later, but at this stage, it's like I still like consider them as a group, but I will try to have a look, like they have different perform. Yeah, it's true, Oliver. We know already that we have difficulties with engaging men in some of these activities in strength and balance exercise, for example, compared to women. In the majority population. So finding it in these ethnic minority groups is also not perhaps unexpected. Babusha, come in.
Yeah. So for the South Asian population, the PPI had male groups, and it like similar to what Yang said, the exercises they want to do are quite different. Males would rather do like cricket or those kind of activities than strength and balance ones. And also for South Asian population, particularly people from Muslim communities, they want to separate. It's genders, they are separated whenever they meet. So and that's it's a cultural thing. So that could also be an a factor. And also, I realized while I was recruiting that there were a lot of widows in my participant list because their husbands had died because of heart disease or something really sooner. So that could have also played a role. But definitely, we need to also figure out ways to have more men be involved in physical activity stuff.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to move on. There's another question here, and then I'm going to ask a question of my own. So there's a question here saying, do you think that there would be varying views and results depending upon the geographic area and the socioeconomic background of your populations? So do you think that geography and socioeconomics is important here?
I think so. Yeah, it's why the people were grouped into 3 categories. You know, like the first group, I mean, like the people who meet the guideline. These are more likely to be with high education, with a better income, so they don't have to think about other things, and they go to they have group exercise every week. You know, you have to pay for the space if you want to do the group exercise. So they don't see any, they less likely to report barriers because, you know, because of their income or because of their education. But for these people like who live in the senior department, they only depend on the government, give them some money every month, and they are more likely to report barrier. They cannot find a space and they only walk in the street. It's the only exercise that they do. And also about the location where they live. For people who, there's a few participants live quite far away from the city center. They have to take a train to attend an interview. So the big problem for them, they cannot find the exercise company because she is only Chinese people live here. But some people live in the Manchester town center. They have lots of activity they can attend, but the problem is the local motivation. There are too many chores. They prefer go to play mahjong rather than attend the exercise group. Even there is an opportunity for them. So I think there's a big influence on their physical activity behavior. Yeah.
I'm going to take Chair's prerogative and ask you one final question, which is about language. You've pointed out that you had both Mandarin and Cantonese speakers in your group. So what influence and what effect does that have, and what does that reflect?
You know, I was thinking at the very beginning, I want to have equal Cantonese, equal Mandarin, but later I found out it's okay. I have more Cantonese speaking than Mandarin. It's because there's more Cantonese speaking in the UK. The Cantonese speaking Chinese usually come from Hong Kong. They have stayed in the UK for 40, 50 years. But Mandarin speaking come from mainland China. They just come into UK maybe stay here like 10 years, 20 years. They come to study and stay here. Yeah, so the number of the participants really reflect the population, the real population in the Manchester. But when I thinking the fact influence physical activity behavior relate to the Cumbria, there's not very big difference. Yeah, I think they're quite similar. Yeah,
that's good. Well, thank you both for really excellent talks and giving us a flavour of your PhD work. And so maybe we could virtually clap our speakers today. And thank you very much for really good talks. Now then, we've got some other news really. We've got another one of these seminars coming up on the 23rd of April. And that's going to be looking at addressing physical inactivity amongst adults in mid to later life. And looking at challenges and strategies. There'll be a further couple of PhD students presenting their work as part of their PhDs funded by NIHR, Dunhill and the university. So look forward to meeting people again in April. Thank you to our speakers today. If you have questions which didn't get answered, please do pop an email to us, to Linda or whoever, or pop it, still got a couple of minutes to put things into the chat. So thanks very much, everyone, and have a really good afternoon. Here in Manchester, it's beautifully sunny, so it might be nice to be able to get out of doors and do some physical activity. More than just walking, of course. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.